The emergency klaxon screamed through the Xylarian Military Academy's main dining hall. But Emma Johnson was more concerned about the mashed potatoes congealing on table 7. All non-combat personnel evacuate immediately. Repeat. Apex Predator containment breach. This is not a drill. Emma sighed, stacking another tray onto her cart. According to YouTube analytics, 99.3% of viewers are not subscribed. That's a huge number. By subscribing the channel that is completely free, you'll help support the channel and never miss fresh content. Yeah, keep your scales on. Just let me finish this section. 217 elite military cadets, the finest warriors from across the Xylarian Empire, were pressed against the far wall of the dining hall, their combat training apparently useless against 3 carnivorous cubs currently shredding stolen lunch containers in the middle of the floor. The cubs, each roughly the size of an earth tiger and significantly more teethy, had scattered food across half the hall and were now systematically working through their stolen haul with messy enthusiasm. Commander Zara's voice crackled through the facility-wide comm system, barely controlled panic bleeding through her normally crisp military tone. Security teams Alpha through Delta converge on dining hall. Tranquilizer protocols authorized. We have 3 Rixal juveniles. I repeat, 3 Rixal juveniles in an enclosed space with active personnel. Emma wheeled her cart past a cowering cluster of cadets, collecting discarded utensils. Excuse me, coming through. Cadet Kyle Thas, his prestigious combat medals doing absolutely nothing to stop his hands from shaking, stared at the human with mounting horror. What are you doing? Those are apex predators. They've killed warriors twice your size. Uh-huh. Emma grabbed a dropped fork from near his feet. And I've got a kitchen to clean before end of shift. Your point? The cub's head swiveled toward the conversation. Their 6 eyes, 2 primary, 4 auxiliary, locking onto the movement. Low growls rumbled from their throats, the sound promising violence that had made their species legendary across 12 star systems. Emma didn't even glance up. She was too busy scrubbing at a particularly stubborn gravy stain on the floor. Human. Zara's voice came through the local intercom now, sharp with urgency. Emma Johnson, personnel file indicates you're still in the dining hall. Evacuate immediately. Those creatures are... I heard the announcement, Commander. Emma straightened, one hand on her lower back as she stretched. Look, I get that this is a big deal for you military types. But I've got 17 more tables to clear. The industrial dishwasher's acting up again, and I'm not leaving food waste out overnight. Do you have any idea what that smell does by morning? Through the dining hall's observation windows, Zara could see the impossible scene playing out below. The human, classified in every galactic database as a soft-bodied prey species, threat level minimal, combat capability near 0, was moving freely through a space that had elite combat soldiers frozen in terror. The Rixal cubs, predators whose parents hunted megafauna for sport, were watching the human with interest, but no aggression. It violated every principle of predator-prey dynamics that Zara had studied in her 30 years of military service. Security teams, hold position at the entrances, Zara commanded, her tactical mind trying to process what her eyes were showing her. Do not engage until I give the order. And someone get me the human's psychological profile, immediately. One of the cubs padded closer to Emma, dragging a half-eaten sandwich container. It was playing. The realization hit Zara like a plasma blast. The apex predator was playing, barely 3 meters from a human who should be triggering every hunting instinct in its genetically engineered killer brain. Emma glanced at the cub, then at the mess it was making. Oh, you've got to be kidding me. I just mopped this section. The cub tilted its head, processing the human's tone. Emma pointed at the scattered food. "You made this mess, kiddo." Across the dining hall, Kael'thas whispered to his fellow cadets, his voice tight with disbelief. Is she scolding them?" "The human appears to be experiencing a psychological break," one cadet offered weakly. "Stress-induced detachment from reality?" "Or," another cadet whispered, "humans are insane and their files are wrong about everything." Zara's comm crackled again. "Commander, Xenobiology team is requesting more information. They're saying this scenario shouldn't be possible. Rixal cubs identify soft-bodied species as primary prey targets. The human should have been the first one attacked, not—" "I know what the files say, Lieutenant." Zara watched Emma Johnson calmly collect another tray, completely unconcerned by the 3 sets of predatory eyes now tracking her every movement. "I'm looking at something that contradicts every one of those files." Emma pushed her cart toward the kitchen, passing within arm's reach of the largest cub. It sniffed at her, nostrils flaring as it processed her scent. "Yeah, I probably smell like lunch," Emma said conversationally. "Happens when you work in a cafeteria? You 3 done destroying my dining hall, or should I come back later?" The emergency klaxon continued wailing. The cadets remained frozen. The cubs sat down, watching the human with what could only be described as curiosity rather than hunger. And Emma Johnson went back to collecting dirty dishes, muttering about how nobody ever taught young people to bust their own tables anymore. The animal control teams arrived with military precision, their specialized containment gear humming with enough tranquilizer payload to drop a fully grown Rixal matriarch. Zara watched through the observation deck as 6 experts in xenofauna management took position at the dining hall's 3 main entrances. Target species confirmed as Rixal juveniles, approximately 8 months old. The team leader reported, his scanner displaying biometric data that made his mandibles click nervously. "Commander, at this age, they've already developed full hunting instincts. Their kill count." "I'm aware of the statistics, Specialist Vexthul." Zara's claws tapped against the console. 73 documented attacks on military personnel in the last cycle alone. Execute tranquilizer protocol Delta 7. The first dart hissed through the air with perfect accuracy. The largest cub's head snapped toward the sound, tracking the projectile's trajectory with predatory precision. It caught the dart in its jaws mid-flight, crushed it, and spit out the fragments. Then it roared, a sound that resonated through the dining hall with enough force to crack 2 observation windows. The other 2 cubs immediately flanked their sibling, forming a defensive triangle. Their body language shifted from playful to lethal in half a heartbeat. The cadets pressed harder against the wall. Several reached for weapons they weren't carrying. This was supposed to be a graduation ceremony lunch, not combat deployment. "Oh, for crying out loud." Emma's voice cut through the tension like a dinner bell. She was standing by the kitchen doors, hands on her hips, glaring up at the observation deck. "Could you guys keep it down? Some of us are trying to work here." "Human, please," Zara started. "No, seriously, what part of 'I'm on shift' is confusing?" Emma gestured at the now agitated cubs. "Look what you did. They were perfectly calm before you started shooting at them." Vexthul's voice crackled through the comm. "Commander, requesting permission to use neurotoxic gas. The juveniles have escalated to combat posture, and the human is in immediate danger." "The human's been in there for the last 47 minutes," Zara said slowly, her brain finally processing the timeline. Since before the cubs entered, she was already inside when containment breached. Silence fell across the command channel. That's impossible," the xenobiologist on standby whispered, Rixal cubs specifically target soft-bodied prey first. It's instinctive. They should have gone for her immediately, before the cadets, Well, they didn't. Zara's voice rose despite her training. She's been collecting dishes while 3 apex predators are having lunch around her, and none of them have shown any aggression toward her at all. Emma, oblivious to or ignoring the command deck's existential crisis, had moved back into the dining hall proper. She was picking up the scattered lunch containers the cubs had stolen, tutting disapprovingly at the waste. "These kids worked hard for their meals," she muttered, collecting a half-crushed sandwich box. 8 weeks of field exercises, final combat trials, and this is how you celebrate? By stealing their food? The largest cub padded over to her, its massive paws silent on the polished floor. It lowered its head, a gesture that the xenobiologist recognized with shock as submissive. Curiosity, not predatory stalking. Emma looked at the cub, then at the mess around its feet. "Yeah, you heard me. Bad manners." The cub made a low chirping sound, a noise that Rixal juveniles typically made only with their mothers. "Don't give me those eyes," Emma said, though her tone had softened slightly. "You made this mess. Well, you can't clean it up because you don't have opposable thumbs. But you should feel bad about it." Kyle Thas found his voice, though it came out more as a croak. "Commander, is she lecturing them?" Zara couldn't answer. She was too busy watching all 3 cubs follow Emma as she moved through the dining hall, picking up the stolen lunches. They trailed behind her and her mind rejected the comparison even as she made it, like younglings following an instructor. "This violates every predator-prey dynamic we've documented," the xenobiologist said, his voice hollow. "Every single one. They should be attacking her. She's the softest target in that room. Her species has no natural defenses, no combat enhancements, no—" "Get me Galactic Command," Zara interrupted. "Now." "Commander, with respect, this is a local containment issue." "Lieutenant, we have a human exhibiting pack leadership behavior over Rixal juveniles. That's not a local issue. That's a complete revision of our understanding of human capabilities." Zara watched Emma efficiently stack the recovered lunch containers, the cubs sitting in a semicircle around her like attentive students. "Connect me to High Command immediately. They need to see this." Vexthul's voice came through again, shaky now. "Commander, my team is ready to breach, but permission to speak freely?" "Granted. I don't think we should. I think we'll make it worse. Those cubs are calm because of the human. If we separate them—" He trailed off, unable to complete a thought that contradicted everything in his training manual. Emma finished collecting the last container and looked up at the observation deck again. "Are you done panicking up there? Because I still need to mop before end of shift, and you're killing my schedule." One of the cubs nudged her hand with its snout, a gesture of affection typically reserved for pack leaders. Emma absently patted its head. Yeah, you're cute. Still made a mess, though." Zara's worldview cracked a little more. Emma cleared her throat. It was a simple sound, the kind any human might make before speaking, a brief ahem to get attention. Nothing threatening. Nothing that should register as significant on any predator's threat assessment matrix. All 3 Rixal cubs immediately sat, their haunches hitting the floor in perfect synchronization. 6 auxiliary eyes locked onto Emma with laser focus, their primary eyes dilating in a way the xenobiologist recognized as heightened attention response. "What just—" Vexthul started. "Quiet," Zara hissed, leaning forward against the observation window. Emma put her hands on her hips, and her voice shifted. It wasn't louder exactly. but it carried a quality that made even the cadets stand up straighter despite their terror. It was a tone that transcended species, the universal sound of authority mixed with disappointment. Did you three really steal food from these cadets? The largest cub's ears flattened against its skull. The other two looked away, their tails tucking slightly, body language that Rixal researchers had only documented in the presence of dominant pack alphas. I asked you a question. Emma's voice remained steady, that same matter-of-fact tone she probably used for inventory discrepancies. These young people worked 8 weeks of field exercises and passed their final combat trials to earn this meal. And what did you do? The smallest cub made a low whining sound. Uh-huh. That's what I thought. Emma pointed toward the cadets, still pressed against the wall. March yourselves over there and apologize. Now. Commander, she's commanding them. The xenobiologist breathed. That's impossible. Rixal juveniles only respond to. The cubs moved, not with predatory stalking or aggressive posturing, but with the reluctant shuffle of children who knew they'd been caught doing something wrong. They approached the cadets, who pressed even harder against the wall despite having nowhere left to go. Then the largest cub did something that made Kael'thas forget to breathe. It lowered its body completely to the ground, pressed its snout to the floor, and exposed its throat, the Rixal gesture of submission and apology that adults typically showed only during formal peace negotiations. The other 2 cubs followed suit. There, Emma said, brushing her hands together. Was that so hard? Zara's command console lit up with incoming transmissions from 3 different galactic sectors, all flagged as priority. She ignored them all, unable to look away from the scene below. Human Emma, Zara's voice came through the intercom, carefully controlled despite the chaos in her mind. Please explain what you just did. What do you mean? What did I do? Emma walked over to the cubs, who were now watching her expectantly. I corrected bad behavior. They're babies. Babies test boundaries. You show them the boundary, enforce it consistently, and they learn. Basic childcare. These are apex predators, not... Have you met a human toddler? Emma laughed, the sound genuinely amused. Way scarier than these floofballs. At least these guys listened the first time. You should see a 3-year-old human refusing to put on shoes. That's a real predator. Floofballs, Kael'thas repeated faintly. She called them floofballs. The xenobiologist was frantically pulling up data on his console. Commander, every protocol we have for Rixal containment is based on dominance through superior force. Overwhelming firepower, chemical suppression, physical barriers that they can't breach. But she didn't use any of that. She didn't threaten them, didn't show aggression, didn't establish physical dominance. She established social dominance, Zara said quietly, the pieces finally clicking into place in her mind. Not through force, through authority structure? Through being a mom, Emma called up, somehow hearing their conversation through the intercom. These 3 are, 8 months old? 9? Still basically toddlers in apex predator years. They're not testing combat skills. They're testing social boundaries, seeing what they can get away with. She crouched down, and all 3 cubs immediately moved closer, seeking her attention like Zara's military training supplied the word reluctantly, like offspring seeking parental approval. The Galactic Predator Control Doctrine, Vexthul said slowly, is based on the assumption that predators only understand force hierarchies. Your assumption is wrong, Emma said simply. She reached into her apron pocket and pulled out 3 containers wrapped in thermal cloth. Here, I made extra meatloaf for the staff meal. Figured you 3 were probably hungry. That's why you stole the lunches in the first place. Could have just asked, you know. The cubs' entire demeanor changed. Their tails lifted, their body language shifted from guilty to excited, and they made happy chirping sounds as Emma distributed the food. "You brought them lunch," Zara said, her voice flat with disbelief. "You predicted they would need lunch, so you brought them lunch." "Well, yeah." Emma stood up, brushing off her knees. "They're growing kids. Growing kids are always hungry. It's not rocket science, Commander." On Zara's console, the incoming priority transmissions had multiplied. High Command wanted explanations. The Xenobiology Institute wanted data. The Galactic Council wanted to know why human capabilities had been so drastically underestimated in the registry files. But Zara could only watch as Emma Johnson, human cafeteria manager, walked back to her cleaning cart while 3 of the galaxy's most dangerous predators ate meatloaf and looked at her like she'd hung the stars. "The human concept of childcare," the xenobiologist whispered, "versus our concept of predator management. They're not the same thing at all." "No," Zara agreed. "They're not." And everything the galactic military thought it knew about threat assessment was crumbling in real time. The doors to the dining hall exploded inward. 2 fully grown Rixal adults entered with the controlled fury of apex predators whose offspring had gone missing. Each stood nearly 3 meters at the shoulder, their musculature rippling beneath scales that had deflected plasma fire in documented combat encounters. Their eyes, all 6 per parent, scanned the room with predatory calculation, landing first on their cubs, then on the 200 cadets who represented potential threats. Zara's hand moved to the emergency containment protocol. 2 adults could slaughter everyone in that room in under 90 seconds. Emma looked up from wiping down a table. "Oh, good. You're here. Your kids have been raising hell in my dining hall." The parent Rixal shifted their attention to the human. Their body language moved through several configurations: threat assessment, confusion, recalibration, before settling on something the xenobiologist had never seen from an adult Rixal before: hesitation. Emma walked directly toward them, and Zara's warning died in her throat as she watched the impossible unfold. "Your kids were hungry and bored," Emma said, pointing an accusing finger at predators that could bite her in half. "That's on you. They broke into my dining hall, terrorized 200 cadets, and stole their lunches because somebody—" She emphasized the word with a look that somehow worked across species lines. "Wasn't paying attention to their nutritional needs." The larger parent, the matriarch, Zara's training supplied uselessly, lowered her head slightly. It was the same gesture the cubs had made. Submission, acknowledgement of fault. "Don't give me that look either," Emma continued, though her tone had softened. "They're good kids. But growing predators need proper meals on a schedule, not whenever you remember to feed them. I'm writing you a meal plan, and you're going to follow it." The patriarch made a low rumbling sound that the translator interpreted as agreement. "Commander Zara," Emma called up to the observation deck. "We need to talk about this Academy's food program. These kids—" She gestured to the cubs now sitting obediently with their parents. "Came here because they could smell proper protein preparation. Your cadets are getting adequate nutrition, but there's no accommodation for visiting species with different metabolic needs." Zara realized her mouth was open. She closed it. "I'll need a budget increase," Emma continued, pulling out a datapad from her apron like she was discussing supply orders, not rewriting galactic predator protocols. And a consultation schedule. If you're going to have apex predator species visiting this facility, someone needs to manage their dietary requirements properly. The human used to run a daycare, the xenobiologist said faintly, pulling up Emma's personnel file with shaking hands. 23 years managing human offspring before transferring to food services. Commander, humans evolved with cooperative child-rearing strategies. They didn't just raise their own young, they raised each other's young, and apparently... He looked up, his eyes wide with understanding. Apparently they extended those same strategies to Earth's predators. Wolves, large felines, even apex species learned to respond to human socialization techniques. She's not managing predators, Zara said quietly, watching Emma distribute portions of meatloaf to the parent Rixal with the same matter-of-fact efficiency she brought to serving cadets. She's parenting them. The cadets, finally released from their fear-frozen positions, were slowly filing out of the dining hall. Kael'thas paused at the door, looking back at Emma surrounded by 5 Rixal who could end civilizations, calmly explaining portion sizes and feeding schedules. "What just happened?" he asked. "Humanity happened," Zara replied. "And every database entry we have about them is wrong." The Galactic Council convened an emergency session within 3 hours, a speed previously reserved for declarations of war or extinction-level threats. "We need to discuss human capabilities regarding apex predator species management." Council head Lir-Ana began, her voice tight with barely controlled alarm. Specifically, what they're calling taming abilities. "It's not taming," Zara corrected from her remote feed, exhausted from writing reports that contradicted a century of established xenobiology. "It's socialization, pack coordination. They treat predators like offspring requiring behavioral guidance." "That should not work," 3 different xenobiologists said simultaneously across the channel. And yet, Zara pulled up the footage of Emma casually scolding adult Rixal while their cubs ate meatloaf at her feet. It does. In the dining hall far below the emergency council session, Emma was wiping down the last table, pointedly ignoring the observation deck that now contained representatives from 7 different galactic institutions, all frantically taking notes. "Commander," Emma called up, checking her chronometer. "I need to clock out in 10 minutes. I've got a casserole in the oven at home, and if it burns, I'm billing the Academy for replacement ingredients." "Human Emma, the Council requests your presence for..." "Nope." Emma hung up her apron, typed her exit code into the duty terminal. "Not my job. I manage food services, not galactic policy. You want predator consulting, that's a different pay grade." Zara watched the human collect her personal belongings with the same efficiency she'd used to manage 5 apex predators. Around her, the command staff were implementing new protocols in real time. Academy Directive 7721H. In case of predator incident, contact human staff first before engaging containment protocols. "High Command is requesting your formal recommendation, Commander," her aide said quietly. Zara typed with steady claws. "Recommend immediate human placement in all military and civilian wildlife management positions. Traditional force-based protocols inadequate. Human socialization methods demonstrate 100% effectiveness rate with 0 casualties or equipment damage. Request full capability assessment of human species across all interaction categories." She hit send and watched it propagate through military channels, knowing it would trigger policy revisions across 36 star systems. Emma clocked out with a soft beep. She paused at the dining hall exit, looking back at her immaculate kitchen with satisfaction. The cubs, now full and content, were pressed against the observation window on the family viewing deck. their parents standing patiently behind them. Emma caught their attention and waved. "Same time tomorrow, troublemakers. And tell your folks I'm serious about that meal plan." The cubs' tails wagged, an expression of joy that the xenobiologist marked as previously undocumented in juvenile Rixal. "Commander," Kael'thas approached carefully, his graduation medals finally meaning something again now that his heart had stopped trying to escape his chest. "What do we put in our incident reports?" Zara considered the question. How did you document that everything you'd been taught about predator hierarchies, threat assessment, and species interaction was fundamentally wrong? Put that human intervention proved successful where military protocols failed, she said finally, and that we're revising our understanding of human capabilities. Should we mention that she treated them like children? That is her capability, Cadet. Zara watched Emma's ground car pull out of the parking facility, the human completely unaware that her image was currently displayed on priority channels across 3-star systems. Humans don't dominate predators through force. They just treat them like badly behaved children who need guidance and proper nutrition. And somehow, for reasons that are going to take our xenobiologists decades to fully understand, the predators agree with that assessment. That's insane. That's humanity. In her ground car, Emma hummed along to her music player, mentally reviewing her grocery list. She needed to pick up more ground meat. If those cubs were going to keep visiting, she'd need to expand her bulk protein orders. Maybe she could get the academy to approve a dedicated prep station for carnivore-specific meals. The cadets would benefit from learning proper multi-species nutrition management anyway. Her comm unit buzzed with 17 missed calls from galactic-level administrators. Emma silenced it. Whatever they wanted could wait until her next shift. She had a casserole to rescue, and honestly, getting the Jell-O to set properly this afternoon had been way more stressful than anything else that happened today. Behind her, in the Academy's command center, Zara received the first response from High Command. Request approved. Initiating galaxy-wide review of human classification. Previous designation as minimal threat prey species flagged for immediate revision. New proposed classification, Universal Pack Coordinator species. Recommend diplomatic channels open to discuss human placement in xenofauna management across all territories. Zara looked out at the dining hall, where the Rixal family was still visible through the windows, waiting patiently like students after class. The galaxy, she realized, had been catastrophically wrong about humans. They weren't prey. They weren't predators. They were something far more dangerous. The species that made predators sit down, feel guilty about stealing lunches, and genuinely want to do better next time. And they did it with nothing more than a cleared throat and a disappointed tone. "Duck,"